My iPhone has the right time.
If I could call the meeting to order, please. It's 7:01. Councillor Humphreys and I have a bet going on here.
7.
We are in Council Chambers Tuesday, December the 13th, 2016. We have no open forum. No one signed up for open forum, so we'll move right into our council meeting. Councillors, if I may have declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as has been amended. Councillors Peary and Kim, comments or questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. We have a number of minutes for adoption. The special council meeting of November the 22nd, council meeting of November the 22nd, special council public planning meeting of November the 30th, special council workshop of December the 5th, special council meeting of December the 6th, special council closed session meeting of November the 22nd, and special council closed session meeting of December the 6th. Would someone put those on the floor, please? Councillor Maracus, thank you. Second? Councillor Kim, anybody have any comments or questions on those minutes? All in favor then, please. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Just a quick update from those minutes. The first one with respect to November 22nd, Committee of Adjustments appointment. Pleased to announce that Council has appointed Nick Racanelli to the Committee of Adjustments as of December the 6th, 2016. I want to congratulate and thank Nick for stepping up. We now we have 5 people for the design review panel, and that was decided at our closed session meeting of December the 6th. The Town of Aurora Design Review Panel for Heritage Properties is a multidisciplinary team of professionals, planners, engineers, architects, and landscape architects with a wide range of professional experience, including heritage design. The panel is established to assist in the review of development and redevelopment applications to ensure the protection of the town's heritage resources and the character of the town's historic neighborhoods. And I'm pleased to announce that Council has appointed the following 5 applicants: Mr. Gary Templeton, Ms. Andrea Bourret, Mr. David Travers Gillespie, Mr. Michael Barker, and Ms. Michelle Tremblay. I want to congratulate them and thank them for putting their name forward for this. Council will move into presentations. We have 2. First up is Adrian Cowan, the Manager of Service Planning for, as I called them, the bus people, because I couldn't think of the name of the department. It's YRT, of course. Adrian, if you could give us your name, rank, and serial number, and you have 10 minutes.
Well, thank you, Adrian Cowan. Mr. Mayor and Council, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present the 2017 Annual Service Plan for the Town of Aurora. My presentation today provides an update on the York Region Transit System as it's operating today and the strategic direction that we are heading in before providing a high-level review of the annual plan as it relates to the Town of Aurora. At the end of the presentation, I would like to share with you a video that showcases our recent accomplishments, highlights, and our route to innovation over the next 5 years. In 2015, York Region Transit conducted 2 separate customer satisfaction surveys. We learned that overall, customers are satisfied with our service and that the majority of our customers are between the ages of 18 and 39 and want to receive information through technology. The top 3 preferred methods to receive this information are the YRT Viva mobile app, YRT.ca, and Google Transit. On-time performance is the primary indicator of the quality of York Region Transit services and is a measurement of our contractor's success. Reliable fleet, expert scheduling, and well-trained staff allow York Region Transit to continue to meet or exceed set targets. Staff work closely with operating contractors to ensure all performance measures are met. Our contractors continue to maintain high standards and have proven to be good partners to the region in providing transit services. Since amalgamation, York Region Transit ridership has grown from 7 million revenue riders to an anticipated 22.5 million revenue riders for 2016. This is a 2% growth over 2015. The Mobility Plus ridership is expected to grow by approximately 9% in 2016. Warmer temperatures, additional day programs, and an aging population contribute to the ridership growth on our Mobility Plus services. New technologies and more customers using the family of services has enabled staff to schedule more trips efficiently. Mobility Plus staff have been able to accommodate more passenger trips within budget and have been able to accommodate 100% of the trips requested by customers. York Region Transit has a unique challenge of providing service to a large geographic area. In comparison to other transit services in the GTHA, York Region Transit provides service to almost half of the total area serviced by transit. York Region's large geographic area, unique communities, and our commitment to deliver transit services in all 9 municipalities requires innovative thinking as how we deliver services to residents in a way that meets business and customer needs. On-demand service is a delivery model York Region Transit is currently piloting, utilizing smaller vehicles to transport passengers in areas or at time of low ridership demand. Tracking revenue to cost ratio trends, York Region Transit has been consistent in achieving approximately 40%. Routes and schedules are adjusted regularly to meet customer demand. Diverse operating techniques are applied to minimize costs to operate the system. As you can see in this slide, York Region Transit falls within other GTHA transit agencies in cost recovery. What is important to note are the differences. With the exception of the TTC, York Region Transit services a larger population. However, the population is distributed across a significantly larger service area, which requires more buses to deliver service. To maintain a 40% revenue to cost ratio, York Region Transit has to continue looking for operational efficiencies and other means of funding services through fares, non-fare revenues, and possible funding through other levels of governments and partnerships. I'm now going to highlight where York Region Transit is headed over the next several years. In 2016, York Region Transit moved into the GTA Rapid Transit integration phase. During this phase, York Region Transit is realigning services to accommodate the operation of additional rapidways, service to the Spadina subway extension, as well as building on the bus rapid transit network by implementing the Viva Network expansion plan. A frequent transit network will be implemented over several years to enhance conventional transit services along the highest ridership corridors. The network will support rapid transit initiatives such as GO Transit's Regional Express Rail, the Spadina subway extension, and services to the Viva Rapidways. The Transportation Master Plan addresses transportation and mobility needs over the next 25 years and highlights the objective to create a world-class transit system in York Region. York Region Transit's 2016 to 2020 strategic plan sets the direction to implement policies outlined in the Transportation Master Plan that support the creation of a world-class transit system. The strategic plan will continue to guide York Region Transit through the GTA Rapid Transit integration phase. The 2016 annual service plan put York Region Transit's strategic vision into motion by implementing service changes, and the 2017 annual plan continues to support the goals of the TMP and the strategic plan. Lots of planning here. The York Region York Region Transit fare policy was updated in 2005 to reflect current transit practices and began to prepare York Region Transit for fare integration within the GTHA. As well, in 2015, Council approved a revision to the revenue to cost recovery ratio to 45% from 50%. York Region Transit staff committed to developing a fare strategy that was reported to Council in 2006, and it was identified that the strategy would identify how to reach a 45% cost recovery ratio, promote fare equity across all ages, address people's ability to pay, and identify non-passenger and other revenue opportunities. The region has in place a number of strategies to support transit ridership growth, as outlined in the region's official plan and many strategies. These documents identify higher order transit initiatives, service expansion, and innovations that will make public transit more convenient, supporting ridership growth. The purpose of the ridership growth strategy is to provide a blueprint for increasing transit ridership in the region over the next 10 years. The 2017 annual service plan proposes initiatives that support transit needs of the region and considers the effectiveness of individual routes and the entire transit system. Detailed route assessments and a description of the service initiatives staff are recommending can be found in Chapter 4 of the 2017 annual plan, and I've left 2 hard copies with the clerk for anyone who wishes to view them. Service reliability and delivering quality transit services continues to be a priority in 2017. Additionally, staff will focus on preparing for the Viva Network expansion plan, integration with the Spadina subway, improved connections with GO Transit, improved access to transit and low-demand transit service areas, matching service levels to meet customer demand, managing delays caused by construction, and promoting regional integration. The following slides highlight initiatives specific to the town of Aurora. Route 22A, King City, provides weekday service between the Newmarket GO Bus Terminal and York University via Yonge Street, King Road, and Keele Street. In 2017, it is proposed to provide earlier morning service on the Route 22A to accommodate increased demand. Route 31, Aurora North, provides rush hour and early evening service along Industrial Parkway and in North Aurora between St. John Sire Road and Wellington Street, connecting to the Aurora GO train station and Yonge Street. It is proposed to convert weekday evening conventional service and on-demand service as part of the Oak Ridges and Aurora South Dial Ride service. We're integrating the evening services into the existing Dial Ride service. Route 33 Wellington is a base service operating on Wellington Street between State Farm Plaza and McDonald Drive. In September of 2016, so a couple months ago, rush hour service was extended to the Aurora Park and Ride facility to provide a connection with Route 320, the Newmarket Beaver Creek Express and GO services. Route 222 Newmarket Aurora GO Shuttle is a rush hour service operating between the 404 Town Center and the Aurora GO station. In 2017, staff are proposing to discontinue service north of Stonehaven Avenue due to low ridership and extend the service to the new residential development along William Graham Drive. Staff will continue to measure the performance of all conventional services. Services operating with a high net cost per passenger may be considered for service changes or a conversion to on-demand delivery model. York Region Transit staff are presenting the approved annual service plan to all municipalities. A marketing strategy will be created to communicate service changes to customers and residents. Service changes will be implemented throughout the year, and staff will be preparing for the 2018 annual service plan, which will be presented to committee and council in September of 2017. This concludes my presentation of the 2017 annual service plan for the town of Aurora. I will now show a brief video, Route to Innovation. No sound. This is a 5-minute video. Just. Oh. I would suggest that if anyone would like to take a preview of the video, it is on YouTube under Route to Innovation for York Region Transit. No problem.
Thank you, and apologize that our technology is, we do have a new system coming in, and this is our last meeting with the old system, so. We're going to blame the region. We're going to say the region broke it and send you a big bill. First of all, Council, may I have a motion to receive Adrian's presentation? Councillor Peary, Councillor Kim. Comments or questions for Adrian, please? Councillor Peary, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Adrian. Adrian, in the last election, a mayoral candidate was talking about the institution of a shuttle service to get people to and from the GO train service for the morning and evening rush hour commutes. I was wondering if there's any, if that's on your radar, if there's any advancement on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the York Region Transit already provides the shuttle, GO shuttle. And as I mentioned in the presentation, we are planning to modify it a little bit more based on where we're finding the demand to get to the GO station is coming from. So we did a license plate trace at the GO station to identify where residents are actually, or where customers of the GO trains are actually living. And we've identified that, and we have modified our services as per the Route 222 to accommodate the area where the residents are living. So that GO shuttle's already in. We do provide GO shuttles throughout the region to connect neighborhoods into the GO stations.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Thompson, Maracas, Gardner.
Thank you, Adrian, for coming this evening and giving us an update. Just a couple points. In the presentation, you talked about the revenue to cost ratio is currently sitting around 40%, but I wasn't sure if I heard correctly. Is the target 45%? You kind of mentioned that at one point it was 50 and then it's been reduced to 45%, or perhaps you can clarify what the target is that we're trying to achieve from a revenue to cost relationship.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the target currently for York Region Transit is 45%. We've been reaching 40% in the past few years.
Thank you. And then one of the last slides it talked about, with regards to all routes, about reviewing those for cost effectiveness and spoke to a net cost per passenger. Roughly, what is the net cost per passenger on average to run our buses?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have an individual net cost per passenger, and what we do is we map it out, and it is identified in the annual plan, each net cost per passenger for each route. And technically what this is the cost to operate service per passenger per trip. There isn't a full system average. We do identify it by route, and this is done biannually to understand how the routes are actually functioning in terms of service quality and reliability, in terms of the cost to operate.
Mayor Doff, just so then with regards to the routes that run through Aurora, would you have a rough idea of what the net cost is for some of those routes, even if it's just a range or ballpark?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the way we track the net cost per passenger is anything that's greater than 2 times the average fare is acceptable, and then we have the 3 times and 4 times. Routes in Aurora fall within the 3 times the average fare, which is, it sends us, I guess, a signal to see what or where we can improve the service or connections with the routes currently operating. Now, not all the services in Aurora are at the 3 times. The local, the 31s, the 32s fall within that range. And again, it varies by the time of day that the service is operating, and that goes along with when the majority of people are commuting to get to and from work.
Councillor Maracas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Adrian. Adrian, thank you for your presentation. One of the challenges I hear from a lot of residents and taking that leap of faith of getting out of their car and taking the transit and using the shuttle service to get to the GO station for their train is that a lot of times they find that the shuttle actually doesn't make it there in time for the train, and the train actually has left before the bus actually gets there. And so just wondering, through you, Mr. Chair, is there anything that you guys are looking to do to make sure that you meet those times and get there earlier before the train actually takes off? Because I think that would go a long way in reassuring a lot of the residents that they can get out of their car and take that service.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we schedule the services to arrive between 5 and 10 minutes before the train. If this situation is constantly occurring, we will add time or modify the schedule to ensure that those trip connections are made. I haven't heard or seen anything through our customer service in relation to missing trip times in the morning. I know that sometimes the trains are delayed coming out of Union. So what we do is we have inspectors waiting at the stations holding back those shuttles because we know that there's a delay, so there's no sense in sending out a GO shuttle empty when we know that our customers are 2 or 3 minutes away. So we have a few contingency plans in place for situations where we know that the trains are delayed or a little early. And on our side, if there is increasing traffic delays, and we'll monitor that service and add time and adjust the schedules accordingly to make sure that those train needs are actually met.
Thank you. It's great to hear.
Councillor Gardner, Councillor Abel, Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Kwan. You did well. You got it all in.
Thank you.
Following on Councillor Marak's point, I spoke with a couple of your clients who want to take public transit to York University. And what they told me was that they don't do it anymore because it is not, it is not reliable. So I know you said that's one of the main goals. Can you make a comment to that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we track on-time performance on a weekly basis. However, pending on certain situations such as construction that may be impacting services, we have to react to that after implementing changes or being prepared for construction. Again, when we hear that the service is unreliable, we take measures to identify where problems are actually occurring. And we have to make those adjustments because the reliability factor for our customers is number one. They want to know when the bus is coming and when they're going to arrive at their destination. And that all comes through in the schedules. Now, just in terms of the schedules are guidelines for when service is to come. So there may be a delay of 2-3 minutes pending traffic patterns. However, whenever there is a 20-minute delay in service, we take, again, secondary actions to mitigate those delays by implementing other services, or we'll put in another bus so the customers don't realize that their original bus is delayed. So it's not seen to the customer, the mitigation techniques that we use, but if there is consistently an unreliable route, then we take a look at that and we fix it right away. And we do that operationally, and then we schedule it in, and then we publish that to the public in terms of schedules and updates.
Thank you. I'll look further into that because that's not the impression that I got from these two commuters. With respect to multi-year fare strategy, could you speak to fare concessions and non-fare revenue options?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the fare concessions are technically categories of types of fares. For example, seniors fares would be considered a concession, child fare is a concession, a monthly pass is considered a concession. So when we talk or speak of concessions, it's just a grouping of a certain user. Non-fare revenues come in many different forms, such as advertising. There's also monetary I guess, cost for data, and that's a possibility. And we're still exploring other means to see what other non-fare revenues we can actually get for the system.
Thank you. Here's one that I find quite concerning, and I hope you'll do something about. On Route 33, that goes across Wellington, the bus used to go up to the hospital. My understanding is that that's been discontinued, and there are a lot of seniors who rely on that bus to get up to the hospital, so perhaps you would be able to email Mr. Simonovskis about that. Look into that and let us know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I'll take a look at that. I don't believe Route 33 did connect to the hospital.
I may have the wrong route, but there was a bus that seniors were able to take. I think it went north on Wellington or on Wellington, and then must have gone on Yonge first and then on Wellington and up to the hospital.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe it was Route 54, and due to the opening of Bayview North, We made a connection into the East Gwillimbury GO station, therefore we didn't make that connection into the actual hospital. So we've kept the route straight, and that was done last year.
Okay, we can maybe further this offline. And the last comment is, I'm very glad to see that, I think it's Route 222. Anyway, it will be connecting all of those new, or a lot of those new residents who will be moving in west of Leslie. Thank you.
Councillor Abel, Councillor Kim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. I basically say the same thing every year. It'd be nice if we had stats on Aurora, what the riderships are for us. Has it increased? You have a tremendous challenge in that you have a southern tier that where all the people are and where most of your transit moves. And then as you go north, it's expansive and it's a little ruly to handle. And so I always acknowledge that being the case. But I do notice, as many here, that we have a lot of empty buses, big buses that are empty. And it seems to me, I've noted the shuttle coming out. You call them, they're a little smaller than the full bus, but they're still, in my mind, the big bus rather than a smaller unit. And they're basically not being used by residents. So I see a fail there, and it should be addressed, the shuttle. Last year in November, we passed a notice of motion that I brought forward for a GO shuttle. I followed it up and delegated at the regional, and it was adopted and received, not adopted, but it was received for your transportation master plan. And we've had several calls with Metrolinx, yourself and I, and describing the last mile and what they've done in Milton. So I'm a little disappointed to see that we're going to, what you're calling a shuttle is not really being used to its fullest. And we have a huge problem with congestion and parking at GO Station, and that's no secret. But it's not unlike other places. And was done very successfully a dedicated shuttle, smaller routes, smaller buses, and it did establish successfully that the ridership was going up and that people didn't mind paying a little extra money. And this is what I was advocating on behalf of our residents to try as a pilot project. So again, I think if the York Region Transit is satisfied that they're providing that service, I think it would be useful for us to know a little more detail what the routes are, what the riderships are, is it increasing? And if it's not, then why waste our money? Why waste the taxpayers' money? If the buses are sitting idle and empty, it's costing a lot of money. Why not, in a smaller demographic like Aurora, that is being serviced by GO Station, why not try something a little more innovative and try and do a little more of a direct line shuttle to demonstrate that it is faster and easier for the residents, and you might get some buy-in. It has been addressed that they are late. I don't know all the routes of the shuttles, but I wish to follow up with a meeting with you to find out a little more detail on what that is. And then maybe we'll have to come back to council, go back to regional council to prevail upon the transportation at the region to try something. Maybe we can make some suggestions and go forward that way. I have talked with Mr. Simonoskas, and he did attend a Metrolinx, so there is other options that don't involve York Transit. That may be a route that we go as well. So I want to thank you very much for coming down, but I feel that we are being underserved for the tax dollars that we're using.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the delegate, I was just looking at the revenue to cost ratio trends, and it's been, as you pointed out, just for the 1 or 2 years in the slide, that it's been relatively flat at 40 for the last 10 years. So how does the calculation work? Because I'm thinking, my instincts tell me that as the population density increases, there'd be some leveraging and economies of scale, and so that figure should increase at least a little bit, but it hasn't really increased that much, and especially with the provincial targets for the region to be vastly higher, and for the revenue to cost ratio to only go up by 4 or 5 points, it doesn't seem to add up. So I'm just wondering if you can expand on why the stagnant ratio when the region's population has really almost doubled in size over that same period.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, technically what's been occurring over the past, I would say 10 years, is that there has been a large investment in public transit. And what comes with that is an increase in revenue service hours. So the revenue to cost ratio is calculated by the operating dollars spent on the revenue service hours and the cost, the recovery from fares. And so what's expected over the next few years is that we stay at approximately that 40% with the introduction of new services such as the rapidways, the changes in our system that are occurring to feed the subways, to feed the rapidways. This all takes additional services to feed. In time, people will start changing their travel patterns and start using that service. So it does take some time to form the service, get it right, and then have people using that service more and more. So this is what is expected over the next few years, and this is why we've asked that we stay around the 40%, because we know that with the construction, say, of rapidways, we have to put additional services in to mitigate any delays caused by by construction. And the reason we do this is because we want to continue providing the reliable services that we say we do provide. So once the construction is completed, once the services are all in, we do expect to see an increase in ridership.
Councillor? Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much, Adrian. We do appreciate you coming out on a yearly basis and let us know what's going on. If you could send us that link, we'll make sure that we put it up on our website too. And last but not least, would you care to introduce your colleague from the region?
With me today is Sharon Doyle. She is the manager of the Mobility Plus service. I truly enjoy bringing her along to the presentations in case I cannot answer a question regarding the Mobility Plus services. She is a true wingman, I would say, and a great support.
Thank you very much. All in favor, receive the presentation, please. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much for coming. Sharon, nice to see you. Thank you. Our next presentation is Mr. Brent Copperson, the Executive Director of Windfall Ecology. Welcome, Mr. Copperson. If you can introduce yourself, and you have 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Brent Copperson. I'm the founder and Executive Director of Windfall Ecology Center. And I was actually scheduled to be here earlier in the year, and I wasn't able to make it due to a family emergency. So it's actually opportune because I'm here to give a review of the past year, 2016, and just what we're doing. I'm not here to ask anything of council today, just to give you some background information on what Windfall Ecology Center is doing. For those of you who don't know, we occupy that beautiful heritage estate right smack in that Aurora diamond of the Shepherd's Bush Conservation Area. And we've been the proud stewards of that building, coming on, well, it'll be 10 years next year. Windfall Ecology Center is coming up on our 20th year of operation. We were established in 1998. And we work in the areas of basically all the work that we do is focused on sustainability in one way or another. So we work in energy efficiency, renewable energy. We do a lot of work in water protection, sustainable transportation. A new program we have that is targeted at the business community, our Climate-Wise Business Network. We do a lot of work with young people in the area, both from a leadership development and an internship perspective. And we also do a lot of community outreach work, like our annual Windfall Ecology Festival. We just completed our 14th season of that, which takes place in Newmarket. Windfall has a staff of 10 today, and we employ a small army of subcontractors that are engaged in a lot of the work we do in residential energy efficiency. We reached a milestone this year, and we actually retrofitted our 4,000 homes. And that's a program that we developed and piloted back in 2007, which is now a province-wide program available to all low-income families in the province. And when we go into a qualifying home, we don't just assess the home, but we actually change out lighting, we switch out appliances, we do insulation, attic insulation, wall insulation, basement insulation, draft proofing, and we also undertake health and safety work where required before we do that kind of retrofit work. This is work that we've been doing since 2001, and it's an area that we've established ourselves having a great deal of expertise. We are the largest providers of the second largest provider of residential retrofit services in the province of Ontario. And we look forward to continuing this work in the coming year. We also, our primary areas of operation are the Greater Toronto Area and Durham regions. And locally, we've got a lot of great programs. Our RAIN program, which is a climate change adaptation program where we work with homeowners in dealing with issues of water infiltration into basements that we're seeing an increasing amount of due to more increasing frequency of stormwater infiltration. We do a lot of work with schools in many different areas, and one of those is depaving parking lots and school grounds and creating better opportunities for kids to play in a more natural environment. One of the projects that we have been working on in collaboration and in partnership with the town of Aurora is the Healthy Kids Community Challenge for Aurora, which is a provincial program that we have been operating, as I say, on behalf of the town and in collaboration with the town. And this is work that we're very proud of. And we've done a lot of work since we launched back on Family Day at the Arctic event, and I just want to read a list of the things that we've done right in the town of Aurora in the last year. We launched the program with over 3,000 participants, and we had 5 schools participate with large assemblies of the entire elementary schools with the program. And this program is for kids basically up to 12 years old. We work very closely with Sport Aurora and their initiatives in making sure that we are not providing overlapping services. There were over 2,000 people that redeemed the Healthy Kids Pass, which allowed kids in Aurora to avail themselves to the many recreational opportunities in town facilities for free for a period of time. As I said, we participated in the Family Day Arctic Adventure celebration. We produce a seasonal newsletter that goes out to teachers and provides them on curriculum-based advice and programs that they can deliver to their students. We partnered with York Region and the town to offer a healthy family fun cooking class series, and this is actually upcoming. It's going to be held in December 28th through January 11th. We've partnered with the Blue Water program to mark local spots where people can refill their water bottles. You may not know, but the Healthy Kids Community Challenge is based on themes. Our first theme was run, jump, and play every day. Our second theme was focused on water, and our third theme, which is upcoming next year, is focused on one of the scourges of young people age 12 and under, and that is the much maligned vegetables. So we're working on fruits and vegetables for the next theme for the Healthy Kids Challenge. We've run 3 nature play pop-ups and a pilot after-school program. We've created a video campaign that encourages kids to get off their computers and be active. That video has been seen by over 16,000 people locally. It's on YouTube. We've partnered with 14 of 15 of Aurora's elementary schools to bring programs and initiatives that support physical activity. water and nutrition. We've supported 4 schools in bringing healthy snack programs through Food for Learning, with two more schools starting up early next year. We've organized a Water Does Wonders conference in November that was attended by over 110 people, and that would be teachers and kids from 13 of Aurora's 15 elementary schools. And we've run 6 family fitness and wellness nights at schools, with 7 more planned for the new year. So it's been a wonderful collaboration. We're very proud of the work we've done here and the support we've gotten from the town, and we want to thank staff and council for making that happen. And to you, Mr. Mayor, and councillors who have come out to many of these Healthy Kids events over the course of the last year. It's really been wonderful support. So that's the Healthy Kids Community Challenge, and we're looking forward to doing more of that work. We recently launched a new program, a business-focused program, and it's a target-based sustainability program known as the ClimateWise Business Network. Our founding partners are PowerStream, the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, the City of Vaughan, and the Regional Municipality of York. We're very happy to have these founding partners, but they're not just partners, they're also members. And our ClimateWise people are working with each one of these members, helping them develop their emission inventories, and every one of those members are using our Windfall's carbon accounting tool that they're using to track their carbon emissions. And we're working with them now to help them develop their emission reduction targets. This is a program that's received a lot of traction. We're actually, the ClimateWise Business Network is part of one of 8 networks within Southern Ontario. The province recently invested $1 million to help us grow out this network. The Ontario Trillium Foundation has recently granted $435,000 for the ClimateWise Business Network here in York Region. And there are discussions going on now at the federal level that we hope will be fruitful, and that would bring quite a few millions of dollars into the ClimateWise program that would flow directly to business and institutional members to pay for energy conservation measures within the business community. And that wraps up my presentation. We're looking forward to another busy year, and I hope to be back here next year to tell you what we've done.
Thank you very much for coming out, Brent. We do appreciate it. May I first have a motion to receive the presentation? Councillors Tom and Humphries. Any comments or questions for Mr. Copperson? Oh, come on. Councillor Gardner. Can't let him escape too easily.
Thank you. When you're talking about ClimateWise and the money that's being funneled into there from different levels of government, you mentioned businesses and institutions. Are we an institution? Is the municipality?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Humphries. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much. It was a great update and great work done for sure. And a question on your program, Fruits and Vegetables, is just a little bit more. Are you going to be inviting the community in to the area? Are you going to be going education out? How's, just really quickly, what's the approach on that?
Well, it happens both ways. It's entirely Aurora focused, and we will be convening a stakeholder meeting. We have many partners and stakeholders to begin the creative process. We've been given a theme by the province, but we don't know how we're going to turn that theme into exciting programs for kids. So it's a tough one, vegetables. So we look forward to the creative juices flowing through our stakeholder
No pun
group.
intended, right?
No, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to following that and see how that goes as well. But great work. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Abel.
Thank you very much, Brent, for coming to delegate. We had you do a presentation at Economic Development Advisory Committee, but your theme was mostly on business and sustainability and the efficiencies and the resilience of adopting ClimateWise, and it was adopted in many of the regions in the Southern Ontario area. in the economic and development communities. Could you just give a quick recap? Because your presentation today was on a few other things, so if you could just share a few thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, clearly sustainability and resilience is the top of mind of many businesses and institutions today. We just saw last Friday the federal government come in with a very comprehensive climate change plan. And this is something that many businesses are already showing leadership in. Some of the largest businesses in the world are taking a lead on sustainability. And there's basically 4 reasons why businesses join an organization like ClimateWise. A is for bottom line profitability. Energy is a huge component of most business operations, so the extent to which you're able to reduce business as an input to your whatever it is that you're doing, you're able to improve your bottom line. Risk mitigation is another reason. So many businesses are operating in a world where it's becoming very clear that sustainability is an issue, and governments are introducing regulations, and there are businesses are taking up sustainability opportunities to mitigate those kind of risks. That could be a supply chain risk. You have a company like General Motors or a company like Walmart who is weaving sustainability into their own corporate business model, but they're also passing that down to their suppliers and expecting suppliers to have their own sustainability program. So risk aversion is one of those. And the other two are, one is simply the value of a green branding. It's very clear that there is value in green branding today, particularly among younger people and millennials, and it just makes a lot of sense. And fourthly, just CSR, corporate social responsibility, that sometimes is a reason also. But we work directly with the company to help them establish their carbon accounting processes. Many businesses do not have experience with this, and Windfall Ecology Center has almost 20 years experience in energy efficiency and renewable energy, and these are kind of 2 of the core approaches in any sustainability effort from a climate perspective. That's a very long answer to a short question.
No, it's very complex, but it's very valuable. And I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor, would we refer this to, because we have an economic development office opening, would we refer
We can.
an invitation to bring this information?
That would probably best, at that point, come from them, but that's a great idea, and we'll certainly put that on their radar.
Okay, thank you very much. So there'll be an invitation once we'll get a hold of you. Thanks, Brent.
Thank you. Councilor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Brent, for coming. I don't really have a question for you. I just wanted to make aware the council that at our Environmental Advisory Committee in November, which the minutes are on our general committee meeting minutes, we passed the motion. Well, we didn't pass it. Well, we asked for direction to give staff direction to look at the feasibility and the cost implications and the benefits of the town joining this, the ClimateWise. And so we're going to get a report back. It's going to come back to council, and we'll be able to make that decision at that time. So we've already started the ball rolling, and so we're on our way. Thank you, Brent, for your presentation.
Thank you, Councilor Gardner. Councilor Abel.
Thank you, Brent. Oh, first of all, thank you for all of the good work that you're doing. Thank you. You mentioned that there's increasing frequency of stormwater infiltration into homes. So is there a reason you can point to for that?
I mean, the science would tell us that our climate is changing, and we have more frequent and more forceful storms. So yes, it is becoming a problem. And on this, we're working actually very closely with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority on low-impact developments and working on having rainwater dealt with where it falls as often as we can, instead of, historically what we've done is tried to move rainwater through our pipes into holding areas and ultimately into our lakes. But that has been proving very costly way of doing things, and I know the Conservation Authority is championing low-impact development, and we've been doing low-impact development projects both with the Conservation Authority and ourselves across the region.
Thank you, and that seems to be something that more and more developers are taking into account.
Absolutely,
The
yeah.
LIDs. Thank you.
Councillor Abel?
It's just a comment. I wanted to thank Councilor Marakis for pointing out that the Environmental Committee had adopted that resolution, because I believe our Economic Development Advisory Committee defeated the very same motion. So at least we've got that, and I appreciate Councilor Marakis bringing it up. I thought that was lost, but it wasn't, so we covered it somewhere. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thanks for bringing that up. I guess we're 1 for 2 on that.
I believe the Blue Jays are looking to replace Bautista, so if you're batting 500. Thank you very much, Brent, for coming out and for the presentation. We do appreciate it. I also want to congratulate you on the great partnership with the Healthy Kids Challenge. That's
Thank
really
you.
been a very successful project, and I've certainly enjoyed the events that I've gone to, so congratulations on doing
For
that.
us, Mr. Mayor, for us, it's a labor of love, and a lot of the work we do isn't all that much fun, so this one really is.
Thank you very much. All in favor of receipt, please. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Council, we'll move to public service announcement, please. Councillor Marakis, may I start with you?
None for me today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Gardner.
We had a wonderful tree lighting, and the tree looks good during the day as well, because it seems to have this red ribbon motif around it. And of course, this is our last council meeting for the year, so to everybody, happy, healthy, peaceful, joyous. And for the first time in my memory, Hanukkah and Christmas fall on the same day, the 25th.
Really? Councillor Thompson. Councillor Abel. Councillor Humphreys.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just a couple of quick things. I just wanted to congratulate the Cultural Center. We had a really special day on Saturday with a Penner Family Christmas. So Fred Penner was out and did a great family show, and I don't think I've ever seen Laura so excited. I think she actually did a little jump and a twinkle on her heels, and it was just awesome. It was, I think her bucket list was fulfilled, but he did a great show. The families were really, really excited, and lots of interest in helping fundraise and joining as a friend of the Cultural Center. So really a great day. There was also a pop-up artisan gift market, which was really great. So well done to the center, as always. Lots of fun. That's it for now. Thank you. I think I have something else, but that's
Councillor
probably it.
Humphreys. Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Tom. Excuse me. Councillor Kim. Councillor Perry. That's interesting with Fred Penner. Fred Penner was the entertainment at the FCM this year in Winnipeg. And you kind of think, wow, this is kind of a strange entertainer but everybody in the crowd was singing along. Cat Came Back. Oh, yeah. Everybody. It was, it was a lot of fun. We are at the end of our year, and it's a very busy time of the year. So if you want to know what's going on, check the December 15th and 22nd editions of the Town Notice Board, which is in the Aurora, and it's also online with us. And again, we're still in the pruning of our street trees, and that more information on aurora.ca. We've implemented our winter overnight parking program, so please visit aurora.ca/snow just in order to make sure that you're not parking where you shouldn't be if there's a snow event like the other night. Winter activities, you can now register for our winter activities, and you can check that out at aurora.ca/rec guide. The Aurora Public Library is hosting Library Lego Days. That sounds like kind of a fun event on Saturday, September the 17th, and a women's meetup to connect with women of diverse backgrounds. That's going to be on Tuesday, January the 3rd, and that's at aurorapl.ca, so the Aurora Library website. As I said last week, strangely enough, all our outdoor facilities are closed. I'm not sure, Mr. Downey, I'm pretty sure you could keep them open for a bit longer. The Senior Center is having a trip to Niagara Falls View Casino on Wednesday, January the 25th, and you could visit the senior site, the Senior Center for more information on that. We have a blood donor clinic. Councillor Maracus, you're going. We have a blood donor clinic, which is going to be at the Aurora Legion on Thursday, December the 22nd. So if you're around, please consider donating blood. It's always a very important time of the year to do that, blood.ca. And the town park, the Aurora Borealis, is next week on December the 15th through to February the 20th through the town park. It's really quite special. You should go and check that out. And I think last I have on my list, it's Family First Night, which is going to be Saturday night, December the 31st, from 6 to 9 at the Aurora Family Leisure Complex. Always a lot of fun. And rumor has it there's going to be a great big cake. So, who does not like cake? Aurora.ca/first night. So I encourage you to come out for that. Thank you. Council will move into determination of items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Perry, may I start with you, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 1 sub 20?
I'm sorry?
1 sub 20.
1 sub 20, thank you. Councillor Kim?
1 sub 6 and item 4, please.
And item 4. Thank you. Councillor Tom?
Item 8.
Item 8. Councillor Humphreys?
None.
Good. Councillor Abel? Councillor Thompson? Councillor Gardner? Good. Councillor Maracus?
Item number 3.
Number 3?
Yes.
That's the final budget?
Yep.
Okay. I would like to pull 1 sub 2, the recycling and garbage collection contract. To recap, we have items in 1 sub 2, 1 sub 6, 1 sub 20, 1 sub, and then items 3, 4, and 8. Everybody got that? May I please have a motion to adopt the items not requiring separate discussion? Councillors Peary and Humphreys, all in favor, please. Opposed? That is carried. We'll move to delegations. We have just one delegate, Madam Clerk, I think. Mr. Helke? We have 2. We have 2. Okay. Mr. Helke, if you could give us your name, address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Jim Helke. I live at 25 Albury Crescent here in Aurora. I'm a proud Auroran. Been here over almost 11 years now. Wouldn't want to live anywhere else. And I'm here to talk about the RFP for the Northern Six, the waste collection. Really, when I think of Aurora, I love this place, but garbage isn't being picked up on time. Yard waste is sitting for days, falls out of the bag, blows all over the place. It's not what I think of when I think of Aurora. And so I started doing a little bit of research into all of this. And I started to learn a little bit of how the RFP works, and here I am today. I don't mind telling you I'm pretty nervous standing up here, so take it easy on me. What I would say is that it seems a little strange and suspect that we've had 8 years of problems with the existing collection agency, and we're getting ready to award it to them again, and I'm not quite sure why. So I looked into a tender versus an RFP, and I started trying to educate myself, and I realized that a tender is based on money, and an RFP is supposed to be a combination of money and technical support. And one could probably deduce that if we've had problems for 8 years straight, that the technical component of the existing collection agency is probably not very good. So then we deduce that it all really just comes back down to money. And I really got to wonder if it's a good use of dollars to save a little bit, to spend a lot more with all the problems that we've created. And perhaps not a very good user experience for the citizens of Aurora. It also seems hard to get some information, so transparency seems to be a little bit of an issue in terms of how you score all this stuff and how the points work out and how the budget works out and all that sort of stuff. Now, maybe that's not for me to know, but as again, a citizen of Aurora, I just wonder if we're going in the right direction here as it pertains to our yard waste and our organic matter and our garbage. It's an $82 million RFP, as I understand it. So we're not talking about a few dollars here. We're talking about a very large bucket of money. And I understand how, business works. I own a business myself. And I understand that, the almighty dollar speaks. But that said, I'd hate to, try and save a little bit here and spend a lot more over there, all to the detriment of the Aurora citizen. So I could ramble on and on. I've got lots of support that I've got off the internet here about many people in this room, many people in other jurisdictions complaining about the service. It's all public knowledge. Reading it all isn't of any value to anyone, and I don't want to waste more time than is necessary. But at the end of the day, I think we should seriously give some consideration to not awarding the contract to the people who've done it historically. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Halke. May I first have a motion to receive the delegation? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Tom. Any comments or questions for Mr. Halke, please? Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for coming tonight. It is nerve-wracking speaking in public, so obviously you're passionate about this issue and you're disappointed with the service levels, and that's concerning to me and all of us here. We have heard negative and positive feedback on the waste collection, but there is, we do log all our data for complaints through our customer service department. We have a customer service manager that I think we should follow up on and find out just how many complaints we're getting and total those up and see if we are, maybe misunderstanding the overall levels that, we're being notified of. So I appreciate that. It sounds like you've had some personal issues that have obviously affected what happened to you, and I don't mind hearing and seeing all that information. I don't know if you have that on an email you can send to us and share, because it's good for us to know. I mean, you may assume we hear it all and we hear lots, but it's good to understand the impacts.
I don't mind providing my own personal anecdotes, but honestly, I don't think that's the main issue here. I'm not standing here because someone forgot to collect my garbage. When I started looking into all this, it's when I realized that I'm certainly not the only one. If I thought I was the only one, I'm not the kind of guy who would get up here and complain about my garbage. I'm not the one calling, Aurora to say you didn't get my yard waste. But when I started looking into it and I realized there was hundreds of calls that have been logged and they are public knowledge. So, and those are probably in, extreme situations, bad weather, things like that. But at the end of the day, there was some pretty strong commentary from people on the municipal side of things saying, we made a mistake here. It's in writing. We made a mistake here, and yet it looks like we're getting ready to make the same mistake again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate that feedback.
I was really hoping you wouldn't ask questions, by the way.
Well, you did a great job answering, so thank you.
Any other speakers, please? Councillor Gardner.
Just to be clear, so you've had continuous problems that haven't improved?
Yeah, I'm not the guy who's standing there at 7 o'clock in the morning looking to see if it's picked up at 7:05. I don't even know what time of the day my garbage is supposed to be there. I'm not there when it gets picked up. But there's been plenty of days where my bin's down the street, my garbage is broken, it's not been picked up. Now, everybody gets that from time to time, but again, when I started looking into this, that's when I realized it's not just a Jim Halke problem, it seems to be a much bigger problem. So I don't really have any good examples for you, to be honest, from my own personal life, because I'm not sitting there monitoring this stuff.
And I believe I understood you're here to serve the greater good, and I thank you for that. But I'm just asking, because you did mention that you have had problems.
Yep.
And it's concerning to me that you would keep having them, or keep having problems of a different variety over the years, and they haven't been resolved. That's the part that bothers me.
I honestly believe the average Auroran is just, when their garbage is strewn all over the place, they just go pick it up themselves and they don't pick up the phone and they don't call anybody. That's what I believe. But then when I read that there's hundreds of calls, it's like, oh, well, so if I'm the majority, but there's hundreds of calls that are the minority, maybe this problem is a lot bigger than the number of calls you've received.
Thank you. And you've come to us at the very, very last minute at the end of our process. But I believe our director has heard your comments, and we'll see where we can go from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helke. And just, because I appreciate your point, and certainly if you had raised that question, I'm going to say probably in 2013, we would have been entirely on side with those comments, because towards the end of 2000, so 3 years ago, it was pretty brutal. But I would suggest it's improved. Personally, I have very few issues. And from a town perspective, I can tell you that we get copied on most, if not all, of those complaints. And that's certainly gone down over the years. But I'm going to ask either Ms. Van Loon, who has actually the customer service group, or Mr. Simonovskis to comment on what they have seen over the last couple of years, because I think you raise a very valid point, and I appreciate that. Either Mr. Simonovskis or Ms. Van Loon. We've all pointed to Mr. Simonovskis.
No problem. Is it okay if I go sit down? Or do you want me standing here? Thank you.
Certainly, through Mr. Mayor, I can just refer to our annual report. So for 2016, we submitted a report to council in July for the 2015 performance year, and we would do the same again in 17 for 2016. And just going through that report, and I'd be happy to forward that to council as well. The for 2000, I'm just looking for the table here. There is a table in here that actually identifies customer service complaints. So appreciating the residents' comments, it's definitely disheartening when residents are caught with an issue. Just looking at the 14 to 15 comparators, missed streets went from 26 to 3 in 2015. Missed locations dropped from 158 to 54. Improper setouts dropped from 38 to 20, and late setouts from 67 to 14. So from a reporting perspective, we did have an improvement in performance, but still, the fact that there are issues that are occurring, I can appreciate is frustrating for residents who experience that delay or that inconvenience.
Thank you, Mr. Simonovskis. Ms. Van Loon, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't have anything to add, other than we have seen a decline in the number of complaints that we are receiving in Access Aurora.
Thank you. No further comments. Well, the delegates already sat down, so we will be having, the item is pulled, so we can have comments then. So receive and refer the delegates' comments to the item. Councillor Humphrey. All in favor? We've already opposed? That's good. Thank you very much. Next up is Geraldine and Sonny Matheson. And if you could give us your name and address, even though we know.
Good evening. First off, let me say I'm more nervous than Jim. Here goes. My name is Jerry Matheson. I'm here with my daughter, Sunshine. I'm representing myself and also my husband, Brian, who couldn't be with us tonight, on our property at 52 Harrison Avenue. I'd like to thank you, Mayor Daw, and members of the Town Council for accommodating our request to be added to tonight's meeting. Our goal tonight is to successfully appeal the decision made last night by the Heritage Committee in regard to our property at 52 Harrison Avenue. We took possession of 52 Harrison on July 6th this year. We were advised by town planning that before we could submit the permit request, we needed to hire a professional, independent historical consultant to provide us with a heritage impact assessment. We engaged Sue Murdoch Consulting from the list of town-approved companies. We paid almost $3,000, which is apparently the going rate, for Ms. Murdoch's report. This process took several months between getting the completed HIA report and being included in the Heritage Committee meeting agenda last night. At the meeting, we discovered that the Heritage Committee also did their own assessment. As a group, their opinions leaned more toward their own point system conclusions than those of the professional we were requested to hire. One committee member did state that ours was the best report she had seen in a long time. Thank you, Ms. Gardner. We were shocked when one committee member alluded to the possibility that a professional being paid by a homeowner may be swayed toward finding in favor of the homeowner's wishes. Another committee member referred to Ms. Murdoch as the Sue person, and then went on to uphold the committee's assessment over Ms. Murdoch's professional report. I would like to repeat the concluding pertinent findings of Sue Murdoch's HIA report. Based on the findings of this heritage impact assessment, it is concluded that the property at 52 Harrison Avenue in the town of Aurora does not hold sufficient cultural heritage value or interest to satisfy Ontario Regulation 9/06, being the criteria for determining cultural heritage value or interest as a candidate for protection under the Ontario Heritage Act. The proposed site plan and conceptual design for a new dwelling at this location respects the two-story with open veranda built form that is important to maintaining the character of this older neighborhood. During our 5-minute delegate presentation, we briefly described the condition of the existing house. This was countered later by a rather flippant committee member remark about us describing the house as being in disarray. We could conduct a house tour to see rotted support beams in the dank basement that basically swing freely in the air, and many other disarray features, if you will, that make the house uninhabitable. There were other comments made by committee members that seemed to set the tone, unfortunately, for their ultimate decision to deny approval. Several incorrect comments were made by one committee member who did admit that he was distracted by his dog when he walked along Harrison Avenue. For example, the proposed new build is the tallest on the street. Well, no, it isn't, actually. The proposed new build is the only one on the street with house over attached garage. No, it isn't, actually. The existing house is 1.5 story tall. Actually, it's 2-story with an existing addition. And calculating 1.5 stories at 15 feet high, I'm not sure where he came up with that, then the proposed new build at 2 stories is almost double the height. This is not correct. After these factually incorrect comments, the committee discussion took on a decidedly negative tone in our opinion. And by the way, there are 9 houses on Harrison with actual 3rd floor dormers, at least 6 or 7 of them being actually used living space. Another member pondered, if the committee allows to delist, what's to stop the owners from building something completely different than what they are showing us? Of course, we're not allowed to speak, so we couldn't say, because we engaged a seasoned, reputable architect to design our home in keeping with the streetscape, heritage influence, large front veranda, recesses in the front profile, town bylaws, etc., with input received by town planning, and the resulting design happens to be perfect for us.
Ms. Matheson, if I could get you to wrap up. Are you almost finished?
No. Can I have 1 more minute? Thank you. We feel the committee as a whole made unfair personal assumptions. We understand that the committee's job is to designate or delist. Their conclusion to recommend to keep the existing house as listed, leading to more time and money invested into changes that they personally feel would make them more comfortable, is disappointing to us, to say the least. We are looking forward to begin building by the 1st of April. We plan to contract Rob Hurlbert of Hurlbert Custom Homes as our builder. By choice, in this stage of his career, Rob chooses to work on just one custom home at a time and see it through to perfect completion in a timely manner. As far as timing goes, Enbridge Gas alone insists on 44 days' notice prior to demolition, which we discovered, to turn the gas off at the street. We have that to deal with. We are appealing to Town Council tonight to authorize the delisting of 52 Harrison and allow the demolition and building permits to be processed without further delay, so that we can move forward and be living in our new home by late fall 2017. We are people of our word, and our commitment is to work with staff to ensure our final plans are acceptable to town planning and adhere to the building bylaws. We are not speculators looking to make a quick profit on an inappropriate build. One last point on a personal level. We are already actively invested in the old town of Aurora. We have 3 children and their spouses, 4 young grandchildren, 1 niece, and our son-in-law's brother and young family, all within a few blocks radius of 52 Harrison. We purchased the property with a view to build a modest, heritage-inspired home to suit our needs for the future and to seamlessly blend into this special neighborhood amidst our family. And what makes this opportunity so special for us is that our backyard actually touches our daughter's backyard, where 3 of our grandchildren can access our proposed new home simply by walking through their backyard to ours. And this is what we did.
We did it.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Motion, first of all, receive and refer, please. Councillor Thompson. Kim, comments or questions for the delegate, please? Councillor Abel, Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Were you able to provide some renderings or drawings of your?
Yes, we provided
It's
that.
in the package.
We had a conceptual front elevation drawing and done by our architect, and floor plan of the main floor and the second floor. I believe it was all included in their package, along with the heritage assessment, impact assessment report prepared by.
Okay. We just got this report on, and I realized
yeah,
this was
sorry.
last night. So that's all right. That's not.
I have pictures
Not
if
unusual.
anybody's interested.
Yeah, we didn't know if we could share some. We did.
Actually, it's in the report. I've just, Madam Clerk has just outlined it to me. It's a lengthy report. Page 53, thank you. Okay, I see that. Thanks very much. And it's only listed, I can get all that from the report, okay.
I'm
Did you,
sorry.
just one more last question. Did Ms. Murdoch give a rating out of 100? We do an ABC.
That's not what, I guess, the heritage impact assessment.
Okay, so it was just comments and.
She did the complete impact assessment, which is what they do, what these people do.
Yes,
What we
thank-
were asked of by
yeah.
the planning office. We were given a list of approved people to call, and we picked one, and we called her, and that was that.
On page 50, Council, of the additional item is Ms. Murdoch's recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for speaking. I know it's nerve-wracking, so I appreciate you coming out. It's obviously, it's about your home and future home, so it's emotional, and I totally get it 100%. We were given this kind of late today, so not a whole lot of time for us to dig into things. We absolutely want to make the right decision for you as a family and for the town overall. So I wanted to ask you, and I looked at the consultant's feedback, and it did say it was, under the part of the Heritage Act, it wasn't as significant value as it could have been if the district was designated heritage. And that was something that last year we, Councillor Abel and I, through a Heritage Committee, tried to designate the area, and the residents refused it. So it's out, and therefore it gives you a little more leniency in terms of what you want to do in the area. However, every heritage home has the same rules, doesn't matter where it is. Now, I looked at the report that they do, and it's kind of part of the Heritage Committee's mandate. A subgroup gets together and does a rating. So I see the rating isn't overly high and it's not overly low, so it's kind of in the middle. So this is where you have the discussion. One of the things that we did, a few of the challenges that we had last term when I was on the committee was they would, along with the the consultant's heritage perspective, there was also an engineering structural perspective. Is the house structurally safe? Is it stable? And that used to help us as well, because we have to be fair to the residents as well. If you don't have millions and millions of dollars to try to rebuild a heritage home, we'd love for you to have that, but if it's going to cause you that kind of burden, then we'd love, the ideal is to keep as much as the original home and build on, but if that's not able, then we would sort of make decisions on that. Do you have anything like that, like an engineering design or anything?
No, we didn't go that far. I can just say in my expert engineering knowledge, if you go into the basement, aside from the my house, I live directly behind, or north on 51 Metcalf, and we have in the old part of the basement, it is sometimes there's damp spots and sometimes there's not, so we just keep that door closed. But in this basement, it's the entire thing. It is kind of like out of a horror movie. But what was really disconcerting is when you do walk, there's all kinds of different beams that have been put in that they float. So when it's almost like a fun house, you know, when you run through and the kids see what moves and what doesn't. So we don't do that anymore.
The steps down toward the basement are probably about 2 feet wide. I don't think you couldn't even get a washer and dryer down there,
Oh, no.
let alone a decent-sized furnace. Like
It's not usable.
No.
Okay, no, that's fair. I appreciate that. I mean, you know, and it's as well. So, yeah, it's a tough thing, and I certainly want to make sure we do the right thing for you guys and for the town for sure. I had another question, Mr. Mayor, and I think it might be probably better underneath the item, but I do appreciate it, and I do. And now, in terms of, you mentioned time sensitivity, if this doesn't go tonight, you know, we sometimes we just defer it to the next meeting so we have more time. Is that going to put a huge impact on what you're planning to do in April?
Well, yeah,
I'm just
obviously,
asking so I know.
We're anxious to at least have the decision made so we can plan. We've been in limbo since we closed on the house in July.
She
We
hasn't
didn't
slept since
haven't
July
slept.
6th.
You need
No.
your sleep. Christmas is coming. You need some
No,
sleep. Don't
no.
worry, it'll work out.
Yeah, it's not.
Don't know. Just another thing just for you to think about, and I mean, from my personal perspective around the table here, what you build there is your business. It is not a designated area, and the town will work with you on that. The building looks lovely from what I can see, but if it was a designated area, you'd have a lot more restrictions than you do right now.
That we never would have bought if it was
So
designated.
the building you've built right now is fine. I don't see any problems with it at all. And if our building department, our planning department says it's fine, it's good with me. If it was the Northeast District that is
Different
designated,
story.
it's a
Yeah.
whole different set of
Yeah.
rules. So that area voted strongly for us not to move forward. So now this is what happens.
Okay, I'm going to,
Sorry, I have to say that because it's only for their benefit.
can
So
keep
last night, when you heard comments about your home coming in, I love the design. I think it's lovely, and I hope that it happens. However, the final decision will be having to meet here or back at Heritage.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson, to the presentation, please. Delegation.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you both for coming. You did wonderful at the
Thank you.
podium. Just to clarify, I heard you say that, you know, certainly, you know, you've been in limbo for some time and you're anxious to know what the final outcome is. But in terms of timelines, you mentioned the fact that the builder is proposing an April 1st build date, as well as you need to give notification to, you know, people like Enbridge 45 days out and stuff. Are there other timelines that we should be aware of as we're discussing this tonight? Because time sensitivity is part of the conversation, I'm sure, this evening.
Well, initially, our builder has advised that, you know, you really can't do anything over the winter time. So from the time we took possession of the home in July, and then we realized we did have some approvals to get through, it was determined, well, I guess that's okay because the winter's coming. It doesn't make sense to start demolition and construction during the winter. Springtime comes, April 1st, good start date. And with that in mind, then we should be able to be in the house by late fall. So, you know, again, that's certainly our wish that April 1, we're on
Something's
the way
happening.
something's
Yeah.
happening.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Tom.
It's been a long time. Thank you for coming out. I mean, I obviously have and Councillor Gardner and Councillor Maracas, who's at the meeting, probably have a bit more background on this one than the other members of council, and it has come out quite quickly from, typically this would have gone to our next cycle of council.
And we appreciate that this
Um,
happened so quickly.
So, I guess I have a couple questions. I probably could have asked them last night, but I'll ask them now. When you bought the property, your intent was to demolish the house from the outset?
It was. When we looked at the property initially, because it did back-to-back on Sonny's house, it just was such an attractive opportunity for us. The house itself was a big problem, based on the condition of the house. You know, we looked
Right.
at it, we looked through it, we thought there's just,
Realistically, there's nothing really to salvage.
There's
Like,
nothing.
there's been little things done here and there that, anything inside certainly that would be considered something worth saving, something salvaging, has already been
and,
done.
you know, because the house is not in the designated heritage area, or I'm just not quite sure of the term there, and it's not, it's not plaqued, it's just
Right.
an old rundown house. You know, it did not occur to us at the time that it would become an issue that the Heritage Committee would balk at our plans.
But, sorry, especially considering the nature of the property and the good intentions that come with it.
Right.
Like, these are people who are looking to make a home, and they are not looking to, you know, go all out and have the biggest and the best in the next Hillview. That's not what they want. They do not want attention. They
Right.
want a respectable, you know, arts and craft period, craftsman-style home that is a lovely place that they can now call their own, and I too can call my own and send my children right up the way. That's the full intention.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. My second question would be then, when you bought your home, was it listed on, like, it's a listed property, so did your realtor inform you that the property was listed, or did you find out after the fact that it was listed?
Well, you know, we probably heard along the way that it was of interest. I guess that was the term, of interest.
Of interest.
And we interpreted that as of interest really doesn't mean, what we've always heard all along is that, oh my goodness, once a house is designated heritage, it's got that plaque, you can't do anything to it, you can't even paint your door. And,
Right.
But if it's not, then it's just a house,
And
you know?
Right.
looking what has been going on in the neighborhood, like, we've got two houses specifically south on Wells Street that it's the opposite of what we want to do. There's a monster has just been built. I heard it's 150 feet deep on Kennedy. So we're looking more like Fred Flood and John George, that kind of style. The homes that fit into the neighborhood, they're respectful, and they add to
Okay,
streetscape.
thank you.
Well, I guess I'm trying to just get into some of the context. So I appreciate that. So it wasn't made abundantly clear that it was listed on the, okay. So that's one thing. Last night, and I'll get into this more in the item, but both with the grouping that the town's assessment has produced for your home, our heritage, not a heritage impact assessment, but our working group assessment, and also one of the other items on the agenda last night was a home that it's a listed property that is being extensively renovated, and then with the intention of possibly designating it afterwards. But our assessment was that it was a high group 2. High group 2, if you look at our own regulations, talks about encouraging the building to be retained and encouraging the original building to be retained and additions being put on and stuff like that. So you mentioned though already, so maybe I'm answering my own question, that you bought the property initially with the intention of demolishing, and that you weren't aware that it was listed, or it wasn't made abundantly clear. So you never really intended ever to maybe try and salvage the original building and add on to it.
There's really nothing to sell. If you,
Like, I mean, the facade, I mean, we're talking about the inside, I mean, we're talking about,
The outside,
there's no
too.
renovations at all.
No.
Well, the outside, like the house actually abuts the house to.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to, because we'll never get to the item.
No, that's all I asked.
Yeah,
So
just
no,
trying to
the
answer
answer
his
is
question.
no. Thank you very much, and
Okay.
I appreciate you coming out again.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Councilor Maracas, Councilor Gartner, to the delegation. And I'm going to hold your answers.
To the delegation, Mr. Chair, thank you. Through you to the ladies, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for presenting. Just wanted to ask quickly if council does see it to delist this property, will you continue to work with town staff on the new build?
Absolutely.
1,000%.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else, please? In that case, all in favor of receipt and refer, please. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Well, I think we'll be getting to this shortly.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
That's it for delegations. We'll move to considerations of items requiring separate discussion. Councilor Tom, would you care to move it forward? Well, let's get it on the table. Okay, so Councilor Tom, second, just moving it forward. Councilor Perry, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Would someone put the motion on the floor, please, so we can talk to it? Well, let's put this on the floor. It's coming from committee, and then you can make an amendment if you wish. Do you want to put this? Okay, well, we first of all have to put this on the floor. Councillor Perry, moving it. Is there a second, please? We're just putting it on the floor so we can discuss it. Thank you. Councillor Tom, you pulled it.
Thank you, and I appreciate the owners coming out again and certainly making a delegation twice in a row to council. And it was a long meeting last night, and I appreciate it. The process is maybe not as fast and efficient as everyone would like, but and I do appreciate their comments and coming forward today. The only thing I would say is that, you know, the Heritage Advisory Committee, I've been on, you know, with Councillor Gartner for a while now. Everyone who's on the committee, citizen members, are committed to maintaining the heritage of Aurora. And we have a tough job because every time a house comes to us that people want to remove and demolish and rebuild, it's highly personal. And so it's very hard for members of the committee to express, you know, their opinions on such matters without sounding offensive. So I don't think the intent of members of the committee is to sound offensive to delegates as they come in. Their comments are made from a good place. It's not to be mean-spirited or anything like that. So I appreciate that the comments from the delegation was, you know, their comments were well heard and appreciated, but they're coming at it from a different perspective. I think the members of the committee are really trying to do their best for Aurora. So I just wanted to start by saying that. I don't agree with the fact that this is on our agenda tonight. I'm not happy that it's on the agenda tonight. The only reason I'm happy to discuss the item. I think Councillor Gartner, myself, and Tom are probably, you know, the best equipped to talk about this because we've had the most, you know, we've looked at this agenda for a week. We talked about it at length last night. This was added to our agenda at 4 o'clock today. I mean, not only that, but the other recommendations from Heritage Committee, I think there's 5, are also on the agenda. The agenda for Heritage last night was, I don't even know how many pages it was. I think it was longer than our council agenda. And so I just think that to follow process properly, we should have this should have gone to the council, general committee and council meeting that it should have gone to, which would have been in January. That way all members of council would have been able to adequately look at the material, and we could have had a discussion on whether or not the recommendations from Heritage are what we want to move forward with or not. I mean, from my perspective, I'm happy to talk about this home and all the other items on the Heritage, from the Heritage Advisory Committee tonight, because I was chairing the committee. I've looked at the agenda for a week, and, you know, so for me, it's not an issue. But I do think that from a process point of view, you know, we're talking about whether we, you know, designate or delist a home, and that's one of the other recommendations that we're talking about. Pretty important, and it's very important to certain people's, you know, personal lives. It's their homes, it's their properties, and I just think that it really, for me, should go through the proper process and the amount of time that, there's a reason why the recommendations come to the next cycle, and that's so that council has an opinion or an ability to look at all the facts and discern for themselves on the decision that we want to make for this home and make sure they're making the right decision for the town and for the residents. And so, without going into further, I'm going to make a motion to defer this to the committee and council cycle that this should have gone to originally, with that being my reasoning. And so, you know, I don't really want too much debate on that unless there is, but because I will speak to the item on the floor if the motion to defer is not passed. So I'll make a motion to defer to the next cycle of council.
Second. Is there a second to Councillor Tom's motion to defer? There is not a second.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll keep going then. So, all right. How much time do I have left?
Madam Clerk? 5 minutes.
Okay. No, I'll go. So, I'm going to start out by saying that the motion that came out of Heritage from last night was not something that I mean, it did come out of the committee. I'm not supportive of it. We talked about this last time. In fact, the minutes from the previous Heritage Advisory Committee are actually also being ratified this evening. I think they actually were ratified on consent, if I'm not mistaken, and we did delist a home. And the same thing happened. We received recommendation from the Heritage Advisory Committee that we should be keeping a home on the list. So a homeowner came forward and asked their home be removed, and the committee said, the committee's decision or recommendation to council was that we were going to remove that home from the recommendation to council was that we're going to keep it on the list. We weren't going to designate it, and we weren't going to delist it. And I think we all expressed at the last committee meeting last week, and certainly with our vote today on consent, that that's not something that we're, at least for myself, interested in doing. I think if someone comes forward to remove their home from the list with an application, we should either designate the home or we should remove it from the list. That's the purpose of the list. It's a placeholder for making sure people don't demolish their home, and then all of a sudden we find out that it has great historical value and it's lost forever. So, having said all that, the recommendation that's on the floor is not something that I'm in favor of. I think, from my perspective, if I was given it on this specific property, based on the information that I've looked at, and notwithstanding the recommendation from Sue Murdoch, my preference would be to designate the home. Certainly not something that the homeowners who delegated are interested in, but that would be my opinion. And I'll tell you why. So, if you look at the report, let me just get to it here. This is my agenda from last night. So, our assessment, our heritage building evaluation score sheet, it's on page 11 of the item, I believe. I'm not sure. I'm looking at my agenda from last night. It scored a 63.4 out of 100, a group 2, high group 2. And in our report, it talks about that priority will be given to designating all Group 1 heritage resources. So this missed out on being a Group 1 by 5 or just over 5 or 6 points. So it's almost a 70, almost 7. But then it goes on to say that, that obviously, as we all know, that Group 2 are suggesting that properties are significant and worthy of preservation. And it goes through a number of bullet points talking about what we should do with homes that land in Group 2, potentially. And one of them was designation of the building pursuant to the Ontario Heritage Act. The other one is retention of the structure at the existing location is encouraged. Any development application affecting such a structure should incorporate the identified building. Appropriate alternative uses for the building will be encouraged when necessary to ensure its preservation. And a letter of credit may be required to ensure protection and preservation of the building in connection with a redevelopment application. So, you know, we have another item on this heritage recommendations from last evening about another listed property that scored a 71 just inside the Group 1. And it's a listed property that is going to be renovated, not demolished, and then with the intent is to designate it afterwards. It's a flurry house. I'll get into that in a second. So then the report goes into the fact that it scored a 63 out of 100. The design, the physical value was 76 out of 100. Associative historical value was 47, that was the lowest score. And the contextual value for the building was 61 out of 100. The report and Sue Murdoch's Heritage Impact Assessment talks about the fact that 93 Wells Street and I think 36 Wells Street are similar style homes. 36 Wells is also built by the same builder. 36 Wells is listed, it's not designated, but 93 Wells Street is. So if you go to page 5 of the report, it talks about that 93 Wells Street, which is a Part 4 designated home, received a lower score than this home. It received 2 points lower, 4 points lower of a score. Its associative historical value was was much higher. It was at 73. Its design physical value was 61, and so it was about 15 points less than the house up for debate tonight, and so forth. So it's designated Part 4. It received a lower score. So that's our assessment, and I think, you know, that's not everything. We have to take everything into account, but this is a tool that we use to decide whether or not that it's worth designating or not. So the Heritage Impact Assessment, now I could fill hours of talking right now with I think there's a bit of a flaw in the process, namely that we go and ask a proponent and an owner to get a Heritage Impact Assessment, spend $3,000, and then, you know, it comes back and it's not agreed with the Heritage Committee or with Council, then, you know, what was the point? And I kind of agree. We should be evaluating this in-house. We have a Heritage Committee. We have a working group. I mean, if we need to get a Heritage Planner, I mean, that's something for discussion. So certainly not up for discussion tonight. So I think that's something we should look at. But going into the assessment, and again, I respect the report was actually really well written, but history is subjective. And it's subjective to everyone, including professionals who do assessments. And they look at the facts, but no two assessors would come out to the same conclusion, and certainly, you know, you might get a different result with a different person. But since we're looking at Sue Murdoch's definition. She places less value on some of the people that lived in the home. She only talks about Archibald and Margaret Hoffman, and she kind of refers to them rather haphazardly, as you know, it would be redundant to recognize them as living in the home, even though they lived in the home for, I think it was 21 years, I think the first 21 years of the house's existence. The next people to live in the home was David and Jean Hill. David Hill was again, in our report, it was talked about much more at length as a pretty important individual within the town of Aurora. David and Jean Hill, David Hill served as the Aurora Planning Board's chair from 1960s. He served on the town's Committee of Adjustment. He's got a street named after him. I mean, he's certainly not the most important guy in Aurora's history, but certainly not just anyone. And so I take issue with some of the conclusions in her report, especially when she just says that, well, just referring to the Reverend Hoffman, but I think there was a reverend at the United Church. It would be redundant to save the house just for his historical value. I mean, that's her opinion. So that's fine, but you know, I just don't understand how she didn't put any context around that in her report. It just said the guy's a reverend. Who cares? He's an old guy. He lived in the house. There was no context to it other than she thought it would be redundant. The other thing is that she references that it would be worthy of preservation and if it was part of the Heritage District. And so it has contextual value to the neighborhood, but then she goes on later in the report to say that as it stands alone, it has no contextual value to the neighborhood. So the only difference being that there's no Heritage District. And I know I'm probably coming up close to my time. The last thing I wanted to say too was that she also makes reference to the fact that 93 and 36 Wells Street are very similar, so that the town already's got two good examples of this type of architecture, which is true. She also mentions that this is a very garden variety type of architecture for the town, and yet the town only has 3 examples. So to me, if garden variety would seem like if we had 15 or 20, then okay, then maybe so. But she says that it's a very garden variety. Maybe that's my words, not hers. And then she references 36 and 93 Wells. Well, 93 Wells was designated Part 4 by the town, and it was less. Our own assessment was 4 points below the one for this home. And 36 Wells is only listed. So if we do go forward with delisting this home and it is removed, notwithstanding what's going to be put there, that home could also come forward, and then what are we going to do then? So we have 2 examples, and if they get a heritage impact assessment, they'll say, well, I guess 93 is our last one. So, you know, I'm interested to hear what other people have to say. My gut feeling and my even though it's not oftentimes the most popular opinion, is that, you know, we have a heritage list, and we have a heritage committee, and we have guidelines as to protection and a right to protect homes under the Heritage Act and heritage conservation. And I think, you know, this one might be the one that sets that threshold, but we should, as a council, at least this term, maybe try to understand the threshold, at least in our own scoring system, for what constitutes a house worthy of designation and what doesn't. And I think moving forward, it's going to be really hard to say no to future requests, and the neighborhood could possibly change if the threshold is set super high, and as I've said before, we've designated houses with a lower score. So my preference would be to designate. I appreciate that might not be the will of council, but I'd be interested to hear what everyone has to say. And
okay, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a bit of a.
Councillor Barakis, Humphreys, Abel, Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I think when it comes down to it, this one for me is quite simple. It's simply whether we list it or designate it at the end of the day. And I appreciate Councillor Tom's passion and his thoughts and his opinions as far as designation. But as he's mentioned, you know, historical value is subjective. And so, you know, speaking to that threshold, and do we set that threshold? Well, then how do we set that threshold if it is subjective? If it does come down to your own personal opinion of whether you think it's got historical value or not, because we can't just set a number and say, and that's why I think it's not set that way. Because if we set that number, well, then it's not subjective, then it's objective, and it's saying this is if it meets that number, then it's going to be designated, and that's not what we do, because there is different ways to look at it. For me personally, I don't see the value in designating this property, and that's my opinion. I don't think it meets the criteria in my mind for in this specific context. But you know, even some of the members of the committee, when I was there last night listening to them, their concerns were not necessarily with the demolition of this property. There was one comment that if the house was gone, that's not what would bother them. Their I guess, problems laid with what was actually going to be built. And so that's where the problem lies here is that the listing of properties should not be used on what's going to be built there. That part of the legislation is put in place for us to look at and say, does it meet that criteria and should it be designated? And so that's what we need to be looking at here tonight. And, you know, when it comes down to that, for me, we should be delisting this property. You know, if we wanted this area to be, as Councillor Humphreys mentioned, if we wanted this area to have those protections in place, well, then it should be, the legislation is there and it can be implemented, and that is creating a heritage district. But without that being in place, you know, when you have a property come up and asks to be delisted, you look at whether you designate it or delist it. You don't keep it on the listing just to use it as a Thor's hammer to stop and prevent what's going to be built there. Because at the end of the day, when you look at it, realistically, the resident can go apply for a demo permit, and in 60 days, we have to make that decision of whether to designate that property or delist it. And if we don't make that decision, and permit's going to get the green light, it's going to go ahead, it's going to get demoed, and then at that point, we lose all control on what's going to be built there. And as long as it falls within the zoning, they don't have to come back to council, they don't have to go back to the committee. And here we have a resident that's willing to work with staff, work with the committee to ensure that the property that they're going to build, the new build, is going to maintain the heritage character of the area. And so I see that they're willing to work with everyone and the staff and the committee and council. So you know what? Because in my mind, it doesn't meet the designation characteristics to require us to designate it. And I'm all for delisting it and allowing the residents to move forward with their home at the end of the day. So that's where I stand. So if it remains as it is, I'll be voting against what's in front of us and looking to put forward delisting the property.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so I'm looking at the report, and one of the things that I really appreciate the committee doing is this. I believe is probably the most busiest committee. Lots on the agenda, very emotional, and everyone has heartfelt. So whatever you heard last night was purely people loving this town and just wanting to make sure the best thing was happening. Was no disrespect to anything that you brought forward, because you know, the home is beautiful that you brought forward, and the structure. They just want to keep the look and feel of Aurora. You know, we all want to keep it that way. And to Councillor Marcus' point, we really need to stop thinking about what's going to go there in that area and think about the home and is it worthy of heritage designation. Last night, if the committee would have put a motion forward to designate, I would have supported that. Because they just said, let's list it and let's see if we continue to work with staff, because they want to ensure any proposed new dwelling maintains the heritage character of the area. That's what I'm concerned with. And I understand where the committee was coming from. They want to keep Aurora, especially old Aurora, feeling and looking the same, because I do. But if that's what they were thinking of and not really thinking about the value of the heritage designation, then I feel that it would have happened last night. That's the time to do it. You designate or you delist. And I think the committee is feeling worried because they probably felt that, you know what, maybe not 100% worthy of listing and making it, of making it heritage, but they were, you know, really worried about letting it go as is and delisting for, you know, the replacement of the home. So for me, I'm leaning towards delisting. Not that I looking at the pictures, it looks beautiful to me. You know, you live it, you go inside, you know what it's like. I think an engineering report may also qualify one way or the other. It's, you know, it wasn't recommended for you to do that, so it's not here. But I do notice in the staff recommendation, it does say, it is recommended that if the property is removed from the register, that the proposed elevations are approval to staff. So you continue to work with staff, no matter what, it's in the recommendations here. And that, to make sure that the home is consistent with the area. So that's in the recommendation as is, but, yeah, that's all for me right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I had the pleasure of serving on the Heritage Advisory last term, and I had the option of asking for it again, asking the mayor for it again, but I thought it was valuable that different councillors have an opportunity, because it just is so valuable and fascinating to learn about the heritage. Plus, I had the distinct pleasure, along with Councillor Humphreys, of sitting with two members that are no longer, that really, it was just fantastic to absorb and listen to their wealth of knowledge on all things Aurora and all things heritage. One quote that really stuck with me was, change is inevitable. The houses will meet their lifetime, and then they will have to either be restored or something else. The role is to maintain the integrity and the heritage, all in setbacks, elevations, features that are in there, and we've seen many, many homes. Also, the story that goes along with our heritage, the southeast and the northeast. These were big lots, often severed into three. One would be for living quarters for servants, and one would be for their firstborn to have children. So if you go along some of these streets, Catherine, Center, you see a magnificent, beautiful building, and you're saying that's heritage worthy. And then right beside it, you're looking, what is that? And so that's in the heritage area, and we have in the heritage area in the north side allowed those to be demolished for a new home to be built, because they are old. But other than that, they form just a basic foundation for living quarters. So there's all that has to be, in my mind, when you go through. The southeast area was a working man's area. That was the history of it. They were the people that lived there, workers that went and worked in Colas or in the tannery. And some were varied and some were different, but they were basically middle-class, blue-collar workers. And so we want to be able to maintain that integrity. And I learned a bit about the scoring, and I look at our scoring. So I look at some very high numbers. Of course, that always attracts my attention. So I look, architectural integrity, physical condition, they're top of the line 20. Now, if they were 10, you would go from a top class group 2 down to near the bottom, and then site 20. So if you would say, well, that site is significant, but why would it be top? I don't know. So if I were to give those all moderates and take 7, 7, 7 off, I'm down 20. I think that's, for me, I could live with doing that. It's not an architectural splendor. I see nothing in the report that says this is an outstanding piece of Edwardian Gothic or anything along those lines. To me, it's the veranda is the distinct with the dormer. Beautiful. Cottage looking, to me, it is not the opulent big homes that we see in the northeast section. So, you know, I would feel, it's in the eyes of the beholder and being objective. It's listed. All the homes were listed there. They were just blanket listed. We dealt with one right by the station. So I understand what is going on. Then plus these basements, if you've ever been in them, which I have because I did some service work years ago. Whoa. I mean, they were just taking rubble and putting it in just so they could put the floors on it. There was all kinds of movement, and I can appreciate the dampness and what is going on with the structure, the safety and the integrity. So physical, I'm just wondering what that means as well. Certainly not the foundation, but physically to look at it, I don't know. So again, it's my idea of the scores. Now, I look at the report, and I haven't got into detail, but the Heritage Impact Assessment prepared by Geraldine Matheson, Brian, and so I'm looking at that. This is detailed. It gives all the factors. It's not overlooking anything. It goes through every single person, and all those things there. So, in my opinion, having had the pleasure and the distinct honor of serving on the Heritage and familiar with what it is that listed and designated this, I would not support designating this unless there was some big wow factor, which isn't borne out in any of the reports. It is a listed property, and I can see why it was. And that's to say that if you're going to build something here, it's going to be something that blends in and maintains integrity. And so when I look at the rendering and the promise that they would work with our staff to assure that, and I know our building will ask for certain elevations and heights to incorporate what was that dormer look, and I love the look of what I'm seeing. We've approved these so many times over the years in this area. I am very pleased to say if that's what's going into this area with the setbacks, that is exactly what the role is of the Heritage Committee, not to create a hardship on someone and say, well, you know what, you should have looked in that basement beforehand or realized that you were going to have to live with a leaky basement while others are being able to build new homes for what's going to be there. These homes will be here for another 150 years. And if everyone does what they're doing to replace these homes, that for me is our role, as I see it, in maintaining that heritage feature and creating sustainable living conditions for families that have been here for generations now, as stated. So I have no problem going with some of the others that delist it, let them move on, and it's quite a journey, I can imagine. And I hope I get a fortunate opportunity to buy a property in this area because it's just outstanding and beautiful. So I will not support this before us, nor would I consider registering it. But I am all in favor of what I've seen from the delegation and from their report and their rendering. So that's where I'm going on this.
New buttons, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Peary, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do understand that, we did get this sort of late in the game. Not everybody's had the chance to go through the report. This home wasn't built for working class people. It was built for a reverend and his family. And with that said, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councillor Tom to a point. I personally really like the building that's on this site. I think from a historical perspective, there is a lot of value. I like the aesthetics of it. I think it suits the neighborhood. I'm not particularly fond of the new design for the new home. So I agree with Councillor Tom on all of those points. However, where I disagree with Councillor Tom, I'm choosing my language properly. Having a property listed is an opportunity to do your business or get off the throne. And in my opinion, really the point of having a property listed is to either designate it or to delist it. And so that's what the option is. And in my opinion, the committee did not designate the site. I would have backed them up if this request came to us tonight and the property was designated and the residents would have liked to have seen it delisted. I would have been in agreement with that. But the fact of the matter is we have this in front of us to maintain status, and I don't think maintaining status is the appropriate thing to do. And because the committee did not come forward to designate the property, I feel like it's my responsibility to delist the property because it clearly wasn't enough value last night to designate. So it upsets me that this house is potentially going to be demolished, depending on how all the votes shake out tonight. But I wish the homeowners success and luck moving forward because I know it's a big undertaking, what they're looking to do. So I am not in favor of the motion in front of us. And I did want to clarify that I moved the whole motion, not this specifically. We're only looking at this item on the screen, but the motion as a whole. So I would ask that this item be called separately so that we can make an amendment or defeat it and move forward, because I think we're pretty much all on the same page at this point. I'm not sure how much more discussion needs to happen at this